Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. We welcome everyone to today's hearing on the accuracy of the census. I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. And before I begin, I no doubt believe there'll be some different conclusions and views on this from partisan perspective, as there always are. But I do think there are some areas here where we can all agree that there are ways to improve the census process. And I do hope we'll be able to have conversations along those lines where there can be some bipartisan agreement that there are things we might be able to do better for future census activities. So look, it is one of the Constitution's simplest commands. Article 1, Section 2 states that an actual enumeration of the American people shall be conducted every 10 years. The decennial census of Americans, though it sounds mundane, is a core pillar of our democracy. It determines how many people represent each state in Congress, how many electoral votes each state gets in our presidential elections, informs the drawing of district lines for state and federal offices, and affects how much money each state receives from the federal government. Simply put, it's important that the Census Bureau gets the count right. And in 2020, it seems that it failed. Indeed, the 2020 census should be called the sanctuary census. Just like sanctuary jurisdictions, the 2020 census unconstitutionally put illegal aliens ahead of American citizens. Under Section 2 of the 14th Amendment, known as the Apportionment Clause, the census must count, quote, the whole number of persons in each state. At the time of the amendment's ratification, the term persons was understood to refer only to members of the American political community, citizens and permanent resident aliens who had been lawfully admitted to the country. Just as the Supreme Court has held that jurisdiction in the 14th Amendment means, quote, not merely subject in some respect or degree to the jurisdiction of the United States, but completely subject to their political jurisdiction and owing them direct and immediate allegiance, end quote, when determining who is a U.S. citizen who is born to illegal alien parents. Indeed, the Supreme Court has recognized a similar principle, noting in 1992 that constitutional language governing the census contemplates more than mere physical presence and some element of allegiance or enduring tie to a place. It is unthinkable that the 14th Amendment's framers sought to reward states that harbored illegal aliens with additional congressional representation. Yet that is exactly what happens now. After the 2020 census, states with more illegal aliens, often because of a conscious policy choice to hamper federal law enforcement and welcome immigration lawbreakers, get more seats in Congress, more electoral votes, and more of your federal tax dollars. A lot of them, in fact. The leading study found that if congressional seats were properly apportioned based on the number of citizens, Republican states would gain between 10 and 12 seats in the House of Representatives and votes in the Electoral College. That's right. Illegal aliens and non-citizens have at least 10 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives and the Electoral College. And that was before Biden administration's policies welcomed 10 million more illegal aliens into our country. During its disastrous 4 years, how many more seats will that give Democrats in the 2030 census if nothing changes? Counting of illegal aliens in the census and as part of the apportionment base also violates the core constitutional principle of one person, one vote. The Supreme Court has repeatedly held that state and federal legislative districts must be roughly equal in population so that each citizen's vote is roughly equal in power. The 2020 census undermined this principle by counting illegal aliens in the apportionment base. Today, a voter in a congressional district with 730,000 citizens, residents, and 30,000 illegal aliens has a stronger say in the election of his representative than a voter in a congressional district with 760,000 citizens and no illegal immigrants. Shockingly, though, the problems with the 2020 census did not stop there. Beyond the manifest unconstitutionality of including illegal aliens, the Census Bureau failed at its simplest task, accurately counting the legal population of the United States. The Census Bureau's own after-action report found that it significantly undercounted the population of 6 states, 5 of which, including my home state of Texas, are predominantly Republican. In fact, in addition to Texas losing a seat, Florida lost out on 2 additional seats, Colorado gained a seat that it did not deserve, and Minnesota and Rhode Island each maintained a congressional seat that should have been lost. Conversely, the Census Bureau found that it overcounted in 8 states, 7 of which are predominantly Democratic. Estimates showed that these errors, which were unprecedented in the recent history of the census, cost Republicans 6 seats in the House. 6 seats just from miscounting, and that's on top of the 10 to 12 extra seats Democrats have from counting illegal aliens. What's more, because the Census Bureau used a technique called differential privacy to scramble the data underlying the 2020 census, these errors are impossible to correct without an entirely new census. We have witnesses here today who can explain the technicalities. As our witnesses will highlight, The practice of differential privacy was derided by outside groups across the political and ideological spectrums, calling for the use of it to end. In fact, a 2021 Harvard study on differential privacy's effects on redistricting noted that, quote, it has a tendency to transfer population across geographies in ways that artificially reduce racial and partisan heterogeneity, which makes it impossible to follow the principle of one person, one vote, as it is currently interpreted by courts and policymakers. Together, then, the 2020 sanctuary census denied Republicans 18 seats in the U.S. House, 12 by counting illegal aliens, and another 6 by counting inaccurately. More importantly, it cost law-abiding citizens in states across the U.S. their equal say in Congress and in presidential elections. Congress must act to ensure that, at the very least, that illegal aliens are not counted for the purposes of apportionment. Let's follow the Constitution. Let's stop enabling policies that encourage illegal immigration. Let's stop weaponizing the census for political gain. And let's find bipartisan ways to improve the census, and let's understand the technicalities that we're going to hear about today that we think have bipartisan agreement create problems in terms of the estimating procedures that are used in census. And let's put the American people first. The People's House, the Electoral College, and all the elections and policies that flow from that should be representative of the American people. I now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Scanlon, for her opening statement.
Good morning, and thank you to all of our witnesses for